So we've talked about decimal. We are now going to talk about the binary, right? Once again, don't read that as a value. Read those as a representation, 0 and 1. If this video is not going to make sense, you should probably go back to the last video, decimal, which was the first video in this numbering system series. That will give you what the difference between what I mean is a representation for an underlying value. So this is binary, right? These are the available representations we have to make as big of numbers as we need. And that is done with, let's close that down. We're going to create a new one. In the same way that you would do decimal, it says we need to represent, right now, with these two things, we can only represent a 0 or a 1, right? Like the value-wise, we can represent that, or we can represent that. So what occurs is, once again, we just add another column for places to hold additional values, right? So now I'm out. When I got to right here, I was out of representations for number values. So all I do is I say, okay, well, I'm going to take that 1 and I'm going to change this 0, and then that's how I'm going to represent the value 2, right? I'm still only taking this first value here, and or this representation, and I'm just assigning it a new value. So this 1 doesn't actually mean 1, it means 2, because it's once again a representation for an underlying value, not a value. So don't read this as 10, read that as I ran out of the ability to say 0 or 1. I need to somehow show 2 with these two available representations. Well, I'll just carry it over, and now whenever I see a 1 in this place, that is going to be a 2. This is going to be a 0, right? 3. Now the truth is, what's actually occurring here is you can do that, right? And this makes it a lot easier to see that, like, oh, it's, binary or whatever is the prefix zeros that you have on it. But you won't always see that if you're it depends on like the disassemblers and stuff that you use. But when you're looking at like assembly, or if you're looking at like when you debug a program, looking for vulnerabilities or exploits in code, you would see this underlying is normally prefixed with like I think it's a 0B, like that is normally what you'd see in a lot of the debuggers. I think it depends on the debugger, but this lets you know that, oh, this is a binary digit. This is a binary value here, or you might, like the 0B would be for binary. Then you get into hexadecimal, but that's pretty much all binary is, right? Is, once again, like to count up is you're strictly just, you only have these two things to represent a value. What do you have to do to show numbers higher than 0 or 1? And that is, you just shift it over. So when you start looking at binary, look at it as a representation of a underlying value, not a value itself. That's like the one thing that if you're going to take away from these videos, at least on the numbering systems, is that they are a representation for an underlying value. Hopefully you don't look at numbers the same now. But next I'm going to stop the video here on binary, and we're going to go into octal and how octal works.